Christopher Juliano is in first place here this week, and he is playing Burn. He is on your left. David Sharfman is off to a great start. He is 9-1. He's playing Goryo's Vengeance. These players have been given the green light. We'll be underway here, and Juliano will start with a fetch land. He'll be searching up, I assume, a basic mountain, and Lava Spike is going to set the terms right away. Here's what I'm doing. What are you doing?
Nice little improvement for this deck, and especially good against Burn. 2 copies in the main deck of Collective Brutality, which is about as good against Burn as you can get. All the modes are great.
That card's very, very good.
And it's a way of putting stuff in your graveyard.
Creeping Tarp is the land here for Sharfman. Juliano with the Sacred Foundry in hand. Looks like a Goblin Guide, perhaps maybe in the draw step. And that's exactly where he's going to start. The 2-2 with haste is going to come in. A trigger is a Serum Visions on top. Sharfman's going to fall down to 15. And there is a Bloodstained Mire and just a passing of the turn. Over to David we go. He picks up a copy of Serum Visions, as we know. Let's say he wants to move forward with the turn. Now, obviously, he knows what he's up against at this stage. None of this isn't much of a surprise. We'll see if he can handle this. It's a Serum Visions. He'll draw a card, and I'll scry to. Is it Charm was the draw?
It's a much leaner build of the deck as well from Sharfman's side. He's not messing around with the Nourishing Shoal plus large green creature package that we've seen on occasion.
Yeah, that was a package I know that served a lot of players well, but he is, as you mentioned, much more direct with what he's doing. He's got 4 Gristlebrand's, 4 Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn as well.
Although this build of the deck may harm him in the Burn matchup because he doesn't have the Nourishing Shoal line. He may have to win more with Emrakul than with something like Gristlebrand, especially against Juliano's build that's playing with 4 copies of Skullcrack in the main on top of 2 copies of Flames of the Bloodhand.
Oh, don't forget about, I believe, a Tarkus Man might be hiding out here too. No, actually, no Tarkus Mans to go around. Okay. No green mana. He's got Sacred Foundries, but he's actually just played one of those and simply passed the turn back. Sharfman's down to 13. Swamp now in hand. Maybe we'll be seeing David do something along the lines of discarding a card for his turn. Who knows?
He does have some cantrips he can cast here, so that doesn't interfere with the ability to discard with hand size if he decides to take that route.
It's a sleight of hand. He'll look at the top 2. He'll take 1 Collective Brutality in there. Though he has just used maybe his only black mana of the turn. Well, he's got a Swamp. I take it back.
Looks like Sharfman here is setting up a big Collective Brutality. You can see him sliding some of the cards he wants to discard over to the left-hand side of his hand. Again, basically can't draw a card up that's better against Burn than this one.
Yeah, it's really, really
All
good.
the modes are great.
Just is it time to go about using this particular card right now? That's the question. He's got Simian Spirit Guide over there. You see the Emrakul in hand. It looks like he's going to go to the Brutality. He's very much in the tank about it. All right, here is Collective Brutality. Let's take a look at this card. Discard a card if you want to escalate. So he can discard many cards he wants to do more modes. So it looks like it's going to be all 3 modes here. So target opponent reveals his or her hand. You may choose an instant or sorcery card from it. That player discards that card. And here's a Skullcrack in response. Target creature gets -2/-2, and the target opponent loses 2 life, and you gain 2 life. So 2 Searing Blazes and a Skullcrack. Goblin Guide's going to bite the dust. Skullcrack is going to be selected. Juliano's going to be left with 2 Searing Blazes, which are not particularly good in the matchup. And now Sharfman's going to have to actually shuffle his graveyard back in because he discarded Emrakul.
Yeah, very good hand here for Sharfman to see. Just 2 copies of Searing Blaze left over at 10 life. He's probably got a lot of draw steps here.
Juliano's going to want to find some sort of creature here, I think.
Now, Eidolon the Great Revel is probably his best draw in this spot.
Sacred Foundry is not. And that is for sure. He'll just pass the turn back over to Sharfman. Sharfman's going to take a draw step here. I think he may have picked up a copy of Faithless Looting. But let's remember, he also has Through the Breach in the deck, so this is a different build of Goryo's Vengeance.
Yep.
Yep, it is a Faithless Looting, so he'll draw 2 and discard 2 here in just a moment. Now he's found a copy of Through the Breach. Looks like he's willing to let a Collective Brutality go, potentially. Well, that black card in his hand is actually a Gristlebrand.
Yeah, I think Through the Breaching Emrakul here is the line, especially with Juliano at 15. No reason to get fancy. Almost impossible for Juliano to kill him next turn based on the information that Sharfman has.
There's a Scalding Tarn. Pass that turn back. Juliano's going to draw a card. He's picked up another land. Obviously not very helpful. He can play the Wooded Foothills to leave up the copies of Searing Blaze, but as we know, Searing Blaze not very good in this matchup. Sharfman's going to sacrifice the Scalding Tarn. Going to be a Blood Crypt that he takes. Puts on the battlefield tapped as he falls down to 9. And now he will untap. It'll be a draw step. It's a sleight of hand. He's going to sacrifice Polluted Delta. Down to 8 goes David. I think a basic is in order here. Make sure no nonsense takes place, assuming he's got a basic left in his deck, and he does. It's a basic island.
And at this point with the land on the battlefield, there's only one unknown draw at this point.
Here is Through the Breach. And that is going to resolve. Emrakul is here. And that is going to take care of this game. So David Sharfman's going to win game number 1 here against Christopher Juliano. Goryo's Vengeance up a game over Burn. What I think, Patrick, is probably a good matchup here for Sharfman.
Yeah, I mean, his deck does have a fail rate built in. And the fact that, you know, his deck doesn't gain life very effectively is problematic for this matchup. The Skull Cracks and Flames of the Bloodhand on Juliano's side, quite powerful. That said, I think on the balance, this is a very solid matchup. There's not a whole lot Juliano can do about Sharfman's best draw, and what you saw from Sharfman there wasn't even his best draw. It was still good enough.
We take a look at the sideboards. We will start with Christopher Juliano, who's got 3 Deflecting Palms, 2 Ensnaring Bridge, 2 Wear Tear, 2 Path to Exile, 2 Searing Blood, 2 Lightning Helix, and 2 Smash Smithereens. This sideboard has carried him to 10-0. Can it help him get to number 11?
So Ensnaring Bridge is a big card here. There isn't a whole lot for Sharfman to do about this other than get it off of the battlefield. So that card, I think, is excellent here and should come in. Deflecting Palm has its moments of being okay, but it's really hard to hold up 2 mana, and especially against a deck that is playing with Collective Brutality, where they get to see the information, take it out of your hand when it's good, and strand it there when it's going to be bad. I think it's dangerous. With that said, Juliano does have 4 copies of Searing Blaze in the main deck and only 2 copies of Ensnaring Bridge, so he's probably going to have to go to some fringe cards here to fill out the rest of the deck, and that could easily be Deflecting Palm.
For David Sharfman, he's got 4 Thoughtseize of Vandal Blast, 3 Anger of the Gods, 4 Leyline of Sanctity, 2 Quicksilver Amulet, and a copy of Murderous Cut. I am thinking the White Leyline probably.
White Leyline is great here, and especially with Juliano's build, not really having access to green mana, no copies of Destructive Revelry, he'd have to preemptively bring in Wear Tear to be able to answer this card, and I think the 1 copy of Murderous Cut is fine here also.
Well, these players will sideboard, shuffle up, get ready for game number 2. Christopher Juliano will be on the play. In the meantime, we will talk about the very popular promotion. We want to thank all of our store owners and players out there for playing in StarCityGames.com Game Night, where this month, if you may have seen on our lapels, it's Old Bone Chewer Giant.
Head over to go.starcitygames.com/game night for more information and find the game night closest to you. Every month we generate kits with new pins and tokens that we send to the stores that are signed up for game night. Stores can then run game night however they want to, any day of the week, any format they want. Just get players in the store on a regular basis for some fun and friendly magic. This is a September kit, and we got the next couple ones coming down the pipeline here. In October, we have Hedgehogahog, got there the first time. In November, announcing Mole Warden. Again, go.starcitygames.com/game night for more information and find the game night closest to you. Stores, if you're not signed up for game night and would like to, contact your Star City Games in-store play representative.
I'm just glad that you're glad that you got there with Hedgehogahog.
Well, I have a fail rate with these.
You do.
Penguillian Click was not the easiest thing for me to get.
Still the nightmare?
Still the nightmare.
I thought Delver Squeakrits was...
Oh, yeah, that one was...
That was tough.
Did not roll off the tongue either.
That one was a little difficult as well. Christopher Juliano is a pretty easy name to say. Where he's from, not as easy.
Poquog?
Poquog?
I don't know.
All right. We'll go with Poquog. We'll have to chat with the gentleman who's 10-0 here this week, and the 24-year-old from, let's go with Poquog, New York. 1 open top 8, 1 invitational top 8. We saw that at the Las Vegas Invitational to close out 2015. loves playing recreational sports, including volleyball, Instagram dedicated to food pictures, and I know you're a fan now. He's burning people alive here this weekend.
I like his build a lot. It feels something of a response to the amount of Obzon and Jund we've seen in the Invitational and the World Championships. Creature's not really great in those kind of matchups. They get outclassed pretty easily by things like Tarmogoyf. There's a lot of removal that lines up poorly against them. So he's really loading up on the anti-life gain measures and just trying to be a more spell-oriented deck.
I was surprised to see Flames of the Blood Hand and no green here for a Tarkus command, but obviously things are working out well. And the rest of this build is pretty stock, honestly. Goblin Guide, Swift Spears, Eidolon the Great Raffle, Rift Bolt, Lava Spike, Lightning Bolt. He's got 2 copies of Lightning Helix. We can't forget about old Boros Charm, Skullcrack, and Searing Blaze.
The construction of his mana base, not having green mana, that's a big help in matchups like Affinity and the Mirror match. So cutting green means cutting a color, and that can really help the beatdown matchups.
Well, we're starting things off here, where Sharfman has a white Leyline, Juliano has a Monastery Swift Spear, and actually this is part of the loss of the green cards, the lack of Destructive Revelry.
Mm-hmm. This is my own personal hell.
You're in it right now?
I'm having flashbacks to, I don't know, all sorts of games.
Doesn't sound great. You gonna be okay?
Ask it. So this is the route here, because I've been in this spot before.
Oh, I imagine you have.
You can still, with it, the Swift Spear is your best path.
Okay.
Because what you can do is you can cast spells targeting yourself, and then use Boros Charm to give a creature double strike. And that's a path to get some value, to extract something out of the spells that you otherwise can't cast.
The path less traveled.
Yes. I mean, we're at where we're at. We can't do anything else with these cards.
You're right. You're right. I got no argument there. Sacred Foundry. And Juliano's going to untap and draw.
The other nice little benefit here is the Swift Spear gets to a large enough size that you can start bolting the Swift Spear itself and not yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Love that. Crystal Brand's on top of the deck. Hi.
Good sign.
Yeah. Hey there, fella. Crystal Brand will be the draw. Juliano's 15 out. Keep in mind, Juliano does have Ensnaring Bridge in hand. I'm curious to see when he's going to want to cast it, but he's got it. Now, you know how we talked about yesterday when we watched Jacob Baugh win a grimy dredge game by casting Golgari Grave Trolls and Stinkweed Imps. How does it feel for you when you defeat the ley line?
So satisfying.
Yeah.
I would imagine, because it's almost because it has almost never happened. I beat it all the time with Zoo, but when I've been playing Lava Spike decks, it's, your deck has a lot of Lava Spikes in it. It's hard.
It's Collective Brutality going to target Goblin Guide. We'll give it -2/-0, or -2/-2, excuse me, and at least try to, and then there'll be the discard as well for the Escalate. Now remember, Collective Brutality will be taking an instant or sorcery. We'll not be taking the bridge. Important to note. So the choices here are 2 Boros Charms and a Lightning Bolt. And Boros Charm, we'll see. I think you want to select Boros Charm if you're David.
Well, he needs to just check out the interaction against Leyline here.
Yeah.
Just make sure what can be cast.
Now Boros Charm says deals 4 damage to target players, so it obviously is a spell that targets, and Leyline says no, can't do that. So away goes the Boros Charm. Juliano will draw. Looks like he's going to sacrifice the Arid Mesa.
So the interesting way that Sharfman here can try to beat the Ensnaring Bridge, if he can somehow get the Gristlebrand just into play and have it on defense,
Okay.
I think there's a chance Juliano gets decked or has to kill himself casting spells to make sure the bridge stays online.
Oh, interesting.
There's also a chance that Sharfman just has brought in, 1 copy of Vandal Blast as insurance against Ensnaring Bridge, and then he can eventually find it.
All right. Well, you saw Juliano play Ensnaring Bridge. Prowess trigger. Get in for 2. Here's a Faithless Looting from David. He's found another Leyline, though I don't think he has the white mana to cast a second one in his deck.
Nope. And
Or to even cast one, period.
no Pentamp Prism either. There's no shenanigans.
Sharfman will discard Gristlebrand and Leyline.
This game becomes fascinating if Sharfman doesn't have a way to get Ensnaring Bridge off the table. There's just so many weird things going on right now.
Here's an attack. Sharfman will draw. Is it charm? Not an answer.
Also not castable.
Yeah. Oh no. This is the fun staring contest. Because Goryo's Vengeance is an instant.
Yep.
So you want to attack? Oh yeah. All right, Sharfman will take it. Another Faithless looting the draw. Sharfman will cast that. Draw 2 cards. Emrakul among them.
This right here is great magic.
Is this what that's what this is?
It's great magic.
Okay. Well, if you love it, so do I. Emrakul and threw the breach down. Time to shuffle up. I suppose this is nice from the standpoint that if you're Juliano, you don't have to worry about Goryo's Vengeance now.
And it does look as though Juliano has brought in his copy of Deflecting Palm, which is not surprising, given that he has 4 Searing Blazes in the deck.
He's got enough garbage.
If we go to a game 3, it'll be curious to see if he goes to something like Wear Tear instead.
Sure. Here's Serum Visions. Sharfman will draw and now scry 2. Bottoms up. Juliano's going to sacrifice the Wooded Foothills. Let's see what land Christopher wants to grab. All right, a Sacred Foundry. Well, if he wins this one, he certainly did earn it, because this is not easy for him to come by. This is another creature. Goblin Guide, all right. Attack step. Sleight of hand on top. Sharfman's down to 8. Draws a sleight of hand. Gonna cast a sleight of hand. He's thinking about taking Darkslick Shores. Looks like he will. The old Scars of Mirrodin fast land. Haven't seen that one for a little while. There are the shores. Pass that turn back. Let's go over to Juliano. He'll untap. Take a draw.
I mean, this may be the spot now, especially with another Swift Spear, where for Juliano to just let it rip.
Playing some spells to target himself.
Just bolt myself, Boros Charm to give something double strike.
We'll see if he sees that interaction. Trigger, sleight of hand. Well, it's doing a little bit of math here, so I think he's going to see at least that this is an option that's afforded to him. Boros Charm, give this double strike.
I mean, this is lethal.
That's lethal by itself, right? Yeah, okay. Well, take that, Leyline.
Okay.
Hey. You start with a Leyline? No problem. I guess Ensnaring Bridge beats Leyline.
Well, it's especially impressive for Juliano to be able to get that game because his deck is worse against Leyline than even most builds of Burn. He has very few creatures, and he doesn't have access to Destructive Revelry in the sideboard either. But Sharfman was just unable to work around Ensnaring Bridge. And now it's interesting. Does Sharfman bring in... I think the one Vandal Blast is safe for him to bring in here. He's seen it. What do you do? Do you consider Thoughtseize? I think you kind of have to.
That is tough.
It is tough. It is definitely a tough way to do it. But Sharfman is not really that well equipped to handle Ensnaring Bridge. It's a fringe card. You don't see a whole lot of it in Modern. But it's very well constructed for Juliano's deck here because he's very spell oriented, so he can play a good Ensnaring Bridge game. But Sharfman there had a really good draw, backed up by Leyline, and it dead ended because he just couldn't beat Ensnaring Bridge.
So am I wrong for just wanting to say, you know what, I'm on the play, Ensnaring Bridge costs 3 mana, I'll just plow through this. I'll figure it out.
Sharfman doesn't win on the third turn all that much.
Okay.
I mean, you had to have your best possible draw. So, I don't know. Maybe Thoughtseize is too extreme. Maybe the one Vandal Blast covers you. But that's a fringe card that Sharfman's deck is just not that well suited to beat, and he may have to consider some pretty extreme measures. Yeah,
this will be a little bit interesting of a situation because that was a very unconventional game of Magic, I think we could say.
Yes.
What we just watched there. So, who knows? Who knows as both these players will shuffle up and get ready for game number 3. Let's talk about the StarCityGames.com newsletter, which is your source for Magic the Gathering news, and best of all, it's free to sign up for.
All the latest going-ons over at Star City Games with the latest information about the SCG Tour, a selected SCG Tour match of the week to watch, exclusive deck lists and advice from some of your favorite columnists, all the recent event results, an exclusive cardboard crack comic, and signing up, as Cedric mentioned, is free over at go.starcitygames.com/newsletter.
All the ins, outs,
What have yous, whatnots.
Yeah. Classic what have yous.
This, that, and the others.
Is this your thing now?
I got all sorts of idioms.
Beautiful. The who's and the what's it's.
Yeah.
That's just called the conversation stoppers.
Mm-hmm. Circle back to this.
Yeah.
My favorite.
Yes.
Let's circle back to this. My favorite conversation stopper.
Nice. Very nice.
Because it implies both a timeline and the fact that we are going to no longer talk about the thing that we are talking about.
Currently.
But it's in a very polite sort of way.
Yeah. We'll circle back.
We'll circle back to this. Yeah. What does that mean? We're never going to talk about it again. Yeah. We're never talking about this ever again. Don't ask me again.
It's a really big circle.
Right.
That's all.
Think about the way that the Earth orbits around the sun. That's what, when I say circle back to this, I want you to think about it in those terms.
David Sharfman will be on the play here for game number 3. I'm curious to see if he's going to try to mulligan for Leyline, if he's looking for Vandablast and or Thoughtseize, if those are in the deck. And if he does have a Leyline, is it a hand that's actually good plus Leyline? Because sometimes you keep a Leyline hand against burn that kind of stinks. But he's going to keep, and we're underway. Does Juliano have a creature to start the game off with? Oh, no.
Still have Eidolon.
That's an option. That's a good one against Sharfman's deck.
Yes.
Yep.
Good against Sharfman's deck and also good against Leyline.
Yep.
You can't cast your spells anyway, so it's basically free.
Yeah. Steam Fence is where Sharfman will start. Time for the former Pro Tour champion to take a draw. Goryo's Vengeance. He'll play a Polluted Delta, simply pass the turn back. His hand does not look particularly good, as Juliano is going to sacrifice a Wooded Foothills.
You can see that Juliano has brought in a copy of Wear Tear, was in his deck there as he was shuffling. Maybe at the expense of Deflecting Palm. Maybe all those cards are in, but remember he has 4 dead cards and only the 2 Ensnaring Bridges, so a lot of room for him to bring in some fringe cards.
Well, we found the Eidolon. He has one. Now Sharfman is going to be under the gun a little bit here. Now, if he's got a Collective Brutality to answer it, no big deal.
Nope.
Sharfman going to go with a Watery Grave. But the Eidolon is a very, very powerful card, to say the least. Sharfman going to draw. Looks like he picked up, I mean, if he didn't have a Collective Brutality before, he's got one now. Curious to see if he wants to use it on this turn.
Well, the alternative is, if he has a way to reanimate Gristlebrand or Emrakul this turn, he should probably just take it. Because he can do that out in front of Ensnaring Bridge. The Collective Brutality doesn't really insulate him from that.
This is Collective Brutality. No, escalate. Just kill the Eidolon, take 2. Play a land in Steam Vents. Pass that turn back over to Juliano, who will draw. Juliano is a Sacred Foundry, simply going to pass the turn back. Not a lot going on here for Chris.
Yeah, Sharpman's got to be thrilled there, because that would have been a great turn for Ensnaring Bridge, and Juliano just played a land and said go.
Sharfman will just say go. Juliano with a Wooded Foothills, he'll just say go. And it's getting embarrassing. Oh boy, Creeping Tarpon.
Oh man, Plan B.
Yeah. That's Plan F.
Yeah.
There's a Sacred Foundry. It's funny, game 1 in a matchup like this, just a pure race. The sideboarded games take on a much different texture.
Well, each player has a card that really shuts down the other person's ability to interact.
Now, if Christopher Juliano had something like a hill giant right now,
Game over.
he'd live in the dream.
Game over.
Yeah. It'd be unbelievable.
Beat down time. I think we're going.
Are we going Spirit Guide?
I think it's time.
Here's Pluto Delta. He's going to hang on to it. Bloodstained Mire. Pass that turn back.
Now keep in mind, Sharfman doesn't have all the time in the world here, and he knows this because Juliano at this point probably has something in his deck that allows him to get rid of the ley line. And he could die in the span of 1 or 2 turns should this go away. So even though Juliano's clearly floundering, doesn't have a creature, can't cast the stuff in his hand, Sharfman still has some impetus to move as fast as he can.
Sharfman will draw. Hey, Emrakul, what's up? Might be time for a little fun stuff, huh? Yep, he can wipe out all of Juliano's lands.
Okay, I like this line of play.
I'm
I'm on board with destroy all of his permanents and leave him at 3.
That's good. I'm glad you approve of that. Here's Collective Brutality. It's going to be escalated at least once. Trigger on the stack from Emrakul shuffling in because it's an additional cost to discard a card. He's going to Goryo's Vengeance the Emrakul. There are no deflecting palms to see.
So this was a place where I was a little bit critical of Juliano's line of play in the last couple of turns. I do not think that he should have been fetching as aggressively as he was for Sacred Foundries, because if this situation came up, which it now has, he no longer has white mana in his deck, so he can't break out of the white ley line even if he draws Wear Tear.
That's bad news. All right, the question now is just what's going to get shuffled and what's not from the Emrakul trigger, so that's easy enough.
You know, we're talking, what are the odds that Juliano wins this game at 1 life with no permanents in play against a white ley line? Guessing low. All right,
okay.
we'll call it low.
We'll call it low.
But I think he would have been better served just leaving one of the Sacred Foundries in his deck, so he had the hope of breaking out of this. I guess the Creeping Tar Pit just.
You think that's going to finish it?
Probably does it,
The
yeah.
Tar Pit will take care of it. David Sharfman's going to win this match over Christopher Juliano, 2-1. Goryo's Vengeance will take care of Burn. And while the second and third games were a little bit weird to say the least, I think it's a pretty good matchup for Sharfman, and he moves on now to 10-1, potentially first place in this tournament.